The plan was simple: drive Nevada's highest scenic road and hike up Wheeler Peak. But once we got above 12,000 feet, things didn't go quite as planned. Today we're in Great Basin National Park and we're about to check out the Wheeler Peak Scenic Drive and maybe take a hike up to Wheeler Peak. Come along with us on this adventure. Rising from the desert floor to over 10,000 feet, this road climbs into one of the most dramatic landscapes in Nevada. But I wasn't just here for the drive. I wanted to explore what was hiding at the end of this road. So this road goes from about 6,500 feet to over 10,000 feet. And at the end of the road is the Wheeler Peak Trailhead. The Wheeler Peak Scenic Drive is only about 12 miles long, but it feels like a journey across multiple worlds. The road climbs through forests of pine and aspen before arriving at the trailheads just below the Alpine. Long before there was a road here, these mountains were already a place of importance. For thousands of years, the Western Shoshone and Goshute people lived throughout this region, following seasonal migrations and moving into these higher elevations during the warmer months. Centuries later, explorers and surveyors entered this landscape. In 1865, First Lieutenant George M. Wheeler led an expedition through the Great Basin and climbed the peak that would eventually bear his name. All right, we are just about at 10,000 feet. Let's take a look at our first glimpse of the 13,000 foot Wheeler Peak. There it is, off in the distance. From the beginning, my goal was to hike toward Wheeler Peak, second highest point in Nevada. But at over 13,000 feet, this mountain doesn't give away its rewards easily. All right, we are on the Wheeler Summit Trailhead here. This is an 8.6 mile round trip hike. The first 3 miles or so are through the tree line, and then the last mile and a half, I believe, goes up an exposed ridge to about 13,000 feet or so to the top of Wheeler Peak. So this trail winds around and up the backside toward the top. So here are some pretty old arbor glyphs. You can see here, date says 1972. You can see how much they've expanded and how thick this aspen tree is. So 54 years ago or so, someone stood right here and carved this on their way up to Wheeler Peak. Kind of fascinating how these arbor glyphs have pretty much completely become illegible and faded with time, and eventually, as the tree continues to expand, the arbor glyphs will disappear. Even before reaching the Alpine, it was clear that these mountains were full of life. Along the trail, we spotted this mule deer and this group of wild turkeys making their way through the forest. Check it out, we got a deer in the trail. All right, we are at about 11,000 feet, and we've made it to the steep part of the trail. Just about at tree line here, and off in the distance, looks like some thunderheads are rolling in. Not sure if they're coming this way or just staying out there, but we'll have to keep an eye on those because we don't want to be up there in a storm. As beautiful as this trail was, I realized I was spending more time fighting the altitude than enjoying the landscape. Sometimes the best adventures are the ones where you know when to change the plan. Time for a short rest and take in the view. Peak is the nub on the right there. There's kind of a lookout farther up on the left. That's incredible. All right, we are nowhere near the top. You can see the real peak is up there behind me, another
1,600 feet.
Rather than push higher, we decided to explore another trail nearby, one that offered a completely different perspective on these mountains. Turning back wasn't what I'd planned, but it opened the door to something I never expected.
So we're kind of doing this off-trail route here, up Bald Mountain, which is the mountain directly across from Wheeler over there. It's looking exciting up here. Here we are though, across the way, and the higher we get, the more we can appreciate that massive giant just across the way. A pretty good example right there of either fresh bighorn sheep or deer dung. So they're up here. So this area that we're at here, this kind of like flat bench before it goes up to the peak, very much feels like a spot that native peoples would have used for hunting, because one, you can see all the way down in that meadow down there, there's a lake. We know there's lots of deer out here, probably bighorn sheep.
As we got higher and the winds picked up, suddenly it was as if we had entered a completely different world.
These beds here are so interesting. They totally do not look natural. It's like someone has cleared out all the big rocks. It looks like a bighorn sheep bed. They made a nice place for themselves to sit. Another one over there as well. So the sheep are up here. I just don't know where. Another one right here. That's pretty cool. Smooth enough to lay down in comfortably.
Using their sharp front hooves, the bighorn sheep scrape away jagged rocks and debris to create a shallow, flat depression. The beds are strategically located in areas that offer a panoramic view of the landscape below, making it impossible for a mountain lion to approach unseen.
Alright guys, we are going to head down. The wind is blowing probably about 80 miles an hour up here, and any higher, gonna get blown off the mountain. So thanks for joining us on this adventure. See you next time.